two truths and a lie about them. Tell us two truths and a lie about yourself, and the rest of us will try and figure out which one is the lie. Any takers? Is anybody willing to go? I'll go first while people are, if you'd like to go, put your hands up and then mute yourself. So I'll go first. Two truths and a lie, and you all have to figure out which one is the truth and which one is the lie. So I am an early childhood educator. I am married and I have 6 children. Who'd like to find out which one is the truth and which one is the lie?
1 and 2 is the truth. 6 children is definitely a lie.
6 children is definitely a lie, you think? Why?
A lie.
So who else would like to give it a go?
6 children is a lie. 6 children
is a lie. Okay, no problem.
Children is a lie.
You don't look like a mother of 6.
Okay, all right. So who else would like to give it a try?
6 children is a lie.
Yes, 6 children is the lie. So who else would like to introduce themselves, telling us 2 truths and a lie about themselves?
Okay, I want to go on.
All right.
Can I?
Go ahead, please.
All right.
Yes, you can go ahead.
I am very tall.
Please show. Can you, if possible, can we see your face, if possible?
Okay.
If
All
possible,
right,
if not, that's fine. You can go ahead if you can't show us your face. You can go ahead.
Only this time I'll show.
Okay.
Can you see me?
Great. Yes, we can see you very well.
All right. I'm very tall. I have 3 children and very dark in complexion.
Anybody, any takers on which one is the truth and which one is the lie there?
She's very short. She's very short.
Very short. She's very short, so she's wishing that she's tall.
Correct.
Okay, great. Nice to meet you, ma'am. Nice to meet you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Anybody else? Anybody else who would like to take it on? 2 truths and a lie about yourself. Tell us your name and tell us 2 truths and a lie about yourself.
Okay, I'll try.
Okay.
Okay, sorry, I can't put on my camera.
That's fine.
So Igbo. I have a doctorate, and I'm a twin. I'm a twin. I have a doctorate, and I'm an Igbo lady.
Ma'am, you are not an Igbo lady. You are not.
She's an Igbo lady now by marriage.
She's an Igbo lady by association.
You have disowned me, right?
Okay. All right. So we have room for 2 more people. Anybody else? Who else would like to take? If anybody doesn't answer, I'm going to call any name randomly now. Who else? Who else? Who else?
Can I come? Can I come along? Can I have a go?
Definitely. Definitely.
Okay. My name is Abimbola Onikoro.
Okay.
So I am fat. I'm fat and dark. I have 3 children. I teach photography.
Okay. So can you show us, if possible, can we see your face if possible? If not, any takers?
I'm sorry.
No problem. No problem. Any takers? Anybody who wants to give it a try? She says she's fat and dark. She has 3 children and she teaches photography.
There's no way we'll know if she's fat.
There's no way we'll know if she's fat and dark.
Exactly.
She's not fat and dark.
She's not fat. She's
She's
slim
not
and
fat
fair.
and dark.
She's slim and fair. She's
She's not
petite.
fat. She's not dark.
Okay, so those who know her are telling us.
She's not fat. She's not dark.
She's leper.
She's leper.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you so much. One last person. One last person, two truths and a lie.
Can I try?
Just-
Good
Yes, you
morning.
can. Good morning. If you can turn on
Good
your camera,
morning.
that would be helpful.
I am sorry, I may not be able to
That's
now.
fine.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. So I am Josephine.
Okay.
First, I love maths. I am very chatty. I am very artistic. So which one is the lie? I love maths. I am very chatty. I am very artistic.
I think that
So-
you're not very chatty.
I
You're
feel
not
that
chatting.
I
I
feel
don't think
that
you're
she
chatty.
doesn't love maths.
Exactly. I think she doesn't love math.
Wow. And well, you see, that was very difficult to figure out. I really love maths.
Oh
And
my
I can
God.
be
Oh.
very chatty, but I am not artistic in
You're
any
not
way.
artistic at all.
In any way at all. I
Great.
love math so much. Yeah, thank you.
It's it's when we hear people say they love math so much. Those of us who love math so much are very few. Thank
Yes,
you
that was
so
why I
much.
went that
Thank
way.
you very
Yeah.
much. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for joining us once again. My name is Oluwatomi Nweke. I am the program manager here at Transformational Teachers Network. And as you all know, we are a community of teachers and we believe firmly in teachers helping teachers. So today, I am very excited to welcome you to this meeting with to this training. Today we have someone who is a dear friend, a dear supporter of TTN, Dr. Mrs. Nkechi Fakoya, and I'll be introducing her, and she will, she will take over in a moment or two. Sorry, Mrs. Fakoya. Sorry, one. Dr. Nkechi Fakoya is passionate about the well-being and development of children. She's an accomplished educator and a dedicated learner. She has a track record of success in school leadership and administration. She's a director of studies at Lagos Preparatory and Secondary School, Ikoyi. She currently teaches development of education in Nigeria, early childhood, primary and secondary, as well as education management at a higher level. The fervor with which she engages in her role as a lecturer exudes a profound influence. She's serving as a wellspring of inspiration and motivation for students enrolled in the postgraduate diploma in education program at Meadowhall College of Education. Through her dynamic teaching approach, she empowers her students not only to comprehend intricate theoretical concepts, but also to adeptly implement them with real-world scenarios. Consequently, these aspiring educators have developed a remarkable proficiency in bridging the gap between theory and practice, thereby optimizing the educational experience and growth of their own pupils. As we all know, we are all about you attending a session and leaving with something substantial, which is why we enjoy having Mrs. Fakoya here with us, because she always breaks it down and gives you things that you can leave here with, that you can immediately implement in your setting. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Mrs. Fakoya as she begins this training today. Mrs. Fakoya, over to you.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Dr. Wani. Good morning, TTN family. Morning, Tomi. Thank you all so much. Tomi, as you were reading that, I was like, is that me? Sounded like. All right, so what are we doing today? I'm not going to take too much time. I'm going to jump right into it and just share my screen so that, yeah, I can share my screen. So can you see my screen? It's frozen.
Yes, we can.
Great, thank you. So assessment for learning as a tool for deep learning is what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be focusing on AFL and deep learning, how we can use assessment as a means to drive deep learning experiences in the classroom, as well as we'll also look at practical strategies to promote student engagement, critical thinking, and growth. So it all starts with learning. All starts with learning. How do you define learning? The next 1 minute, even 30 seconds. When you hear the word learning, what comes to your mind? What is learning to you? Can you just type in the chat box, please? Application, okay. It's a beautiful morning. Learning is a beautiful morning. Okay, any other ones? Acquisition of knowledge. Thank you, Dr. Wani. Thank you. I was in the acquiring information. Thank you, Buforo. A change in behavior. I like that. Acquisition of new information, knowledge. Olabudia and Grace, thank you so much. It's just changing mindsets, getting information, acquisition of knowledge. So we are all on the same page pretty much. The key element there is there's some kind of change. Where I used to be, where I am now, giving and receiving information, knowing something new. Thank you all so much. Learning is getting information. Okay, so we all have this idea of learning, and I think the main thing there is you're getting something, you're gaining something, it's something you didn't have before, and you now, have it, maybe due to some activities, some experiences, even by virtue of where you live, or by virtue of where you were born and things like that. So it's about getting something new, learning something new. Thank you very much for contributing. So I'm just going to look at learning from some very, from a broad angle, a broad perspective. Qualitative increase in knowledge. So you're deepening understanding. I already knew something is getting better, or I never knew it before. The quality of what I know, of the information I have, is getting better. You can also look at learning as a quantitative increase in knowledge. So this is facts. So there's a place for those facts that you have, and there's also the quality of it, which is putting them all together to create meaning for yourself. Learning could be developing skills and techniques, creating new realities, acquisition of knowledge, learning a route to achieving a change. Thank you, Dr. Obafemi. Developing wisdom and recreating knowledge. So these are some ways we look at learning. As educators. Now, in order that people may be happy in their work, 3 things are needed. They must be fit for it, they must not do too much of it, and they must have a sense of success in it. Why are we looking at learning, deep learning, assessment for learning? Why is that focus? We are preparing our children, our students, for jobs that have not even been created yet. We are preparing them for real life, and we want them to be fit for whatever job that they're going to do in the future. We want them, when we say they must not do too much of it, it means that there must be some element of challenge and excitement, not drudgery, and not, the same thing. And so learning is a process, it's a continuous thing, and we must keep building on it. They must have a sense of success in it. And by the time we go through this session, we understand the importance of having a sense of success and how we can help our students have that sense of success. So when we talk about learning, there's a place for there's a place for shallow learning, there's a place for deep learning. And because we're going to talk about deep learning today, we must look at what shallow learning looks like. So when we talk about shallow learning, this is controlled by a teacher. Learner is compliant, it's being done to the learner. It's just something, I'm passive in all this as a shallow learner. I'm passive, I'm depending on the teacher. Whatever the teacher says is fine. 2 + 3 is 4. Yep, I write that down. It's fine. Uncritical acceptance of facts, rote learning, unrelated facts, isolated themes, content quickly forgotten. Can we just type quickly in the chat? What do you think might be the problem? Looking at our environment today, what might be the problem with depending solely on shallow learning for our students? What might be the problem with this? You can unmute and answer the question or type in the chat if you'd rather do that. But we have learners that are passive. Yes. That Akinyele Olabisi. Too many distractions.
Okay.
I don't understand that. Can you explain? Can I ask clarity on one of the definitions of learning? Yes, you may. Ayotunde. Application is impossible. Exactly. Just waiting for instructions and all that. So Ayotunde, you wanted clarity. Can you type what you wanted clarity of, which one, the one you weren't too clear on? Learners are unable to implement what they have learned. Exactly. Learning is not impactful, not permanent. They will not be able to learn on their own. They'll not be able to question things. No critical thinking developed. So we all have a general idea of how dangerous it is to be, throwing out shallow learners, not allowing learners to have critical thinking. Teacher said, Kiyele wants to say something. Okay, please, Mr. Kiyele, please go ahead and say something.
Oh, good morning.
Oh, Mr. Kiyele, good morning.
Yes, thank you. When learning is shallow, the learners, they tend to forget whatever they have learned. That means that learning will be temporal instead of being permanent, instead of being a lifelong experience.
Fantastic. Thank you for using that word lifelong, because if you look at most schools' mission statements, we all want to create lifelong learners. If we are teaching in this manner and just doing shallow learning all the time, that mission will not be accomplished. So thank you very much for all the contributions. Now, when we look at deep learning, we are looking at that step after shallow learning. So shallow learning might be just the first introduction, shall I say, to learning. But when we are looking at deep learning, we're looking at learning that sticks, learning that lasts. And in this kind of learning, we cannot, the student cannot be exempt. The student cannot be passive. The student must not be passive. When we talk about deep learning, we're talking about metacognition. First, we had cognition, then there's metacognition, beyond condition. Thinking about how they learn, thinking about how they process things, thinking about how they came up with their solutions. So when we're talking about deep learning, we also must mention self-awareness. Self-awareness is knowing yourself, knowing your triggers, knowing how you learn best, knowing those things that affect you, how they affect you. Self-management, knowing how to, shall I say, organize yourself, take responsibility, own your learning, own your destiny, shall I say, in a manner of speaking. So self-awareness and self-management are key elements of deep learning, and they are key elements for metacognition. In deep learning, knowledge is created, it is understood using higher order thinking skills. So it's not done to them. It's not something that they told them. They've known it for themselves because they've been able to analyze, evaluate, critically think about things, create their own knowledge, create their own meaning. So I have some comments here. Dogmatic learning based on only what teachers dish out. Okay, that's for shallow learning. Okay, thank you. So deep learning is about making connections. It's about making connections. It's about seeing a bar of chocolate and knowing how it connects to that cocoa plant. How did it get to this point of being in this form? You understand, you know, how things come to be, and you're able to create your own meaning and make those connections. Deep learning is about developing those 21st century skills like citizenship, character. They are the first two on that list because they actually, they control everything else. We have to live with one another in a society. And school generally is a picture of what society is supposed to look like. So citizenship, being a good citizen, showing compassion, care for other people, empathy for other people, being able to share your space in a way that doesn't hurt anybody. Character, integrity, knowing who you are, having your own values, all those things are part of deep learning. It's not just the subject matter, it's also the individual. And that's what makes deep learning so special. It's about the person, the student, the learner. It involves collaboration. All these are interrelated. Creativity. When you want students to come up with fantastic things, you get them to work together. The brain is a very relational organ. So when we teach them to collaborate, to share their ideas, to be creative, they're not stuck somewhere. What do you do when you don't know what to do? You're not stuck because you are able to think creatively, critical thinking. What's in this for, not just for me, but for my community, critical thinking. If I take this decision, how does it impact on other things? How can I solve this problem in a way that's in the best possible way? And then of course, communication, getting my ideas across, because it's one thing to have all these things in us and not being able to communicate. So communication, how do I get my points across? What is the best way to get my points across? Who am I communicating with? And how do I adapt my, my speech or, my content to match or suit the people I'm communicating with? So deep learning is personal to the learner. It's personal to the learner, and it's something that cannot be taken away from the learner. It's not easily forgotten because it forms a foundation learning. So deep learning, yes, Echeta Mercy, deep learning makes learning more lasting and permanent. Yes, deep learning equips children to think past the subject and get creative through critical thinking and problem-solving skills. Thank you, Ms. Seriki. Awesome. Thank you so much. So I love these contributions. Well done, everyone. In deep learning, the learner understands the learning process. Learning is not an event, it is a process. It's ongoing, it never stops. And in deep learning, the teacher is a facilitator, not the fountain of all knowledge and wisdom. You are a facilitator. You're helping other people construct meaning, construct understanding, helping them understand better. And as you are doing that, you are also learning as well. So the teacher is also a learner. Teacher is a mentor, guiding the learners. Learning is active in deep learning. It's not something that's done to the students. It's something that they are actually actively engaged in. There's emphasis on depth, not just content. It's about going deeper, understanding, when children struggle with maths concepts in year 3, usually that's where it comes out a lot, where by end of Key Stage 2, they're about to now know who does not understand place value of whole numbers. Because when that foundation is not built properly from the early years, it will show up later on. So deep learning is not just about, we need to finish this curriculum. We need to teach all these things before the end of the school. But this foundation must be laid so that they don't struggle later. And you find that when you take time to lay that foundation, that child has more chances of being successful in the future. So content is remembered and codified. So codified meaning that you put it in a way that it makes sense to you. You know, we've seen these skits, these comedy skits on WhatsApp or Instagram where, you know, the message starts in a certain way. Maybe the message is learning is active, or go and buy me 2 cubes of sugar and 1 tin of milk. And by the time the child gets there, they're repeating and over, and 2 cubes of sugar has become 2 tins of milk and all that. We codify information. We put it in a way in our brains, in a way that we can easily retrieve it when we need to. And so that codifying process is where we are very important as facilitators of learning to make sure that how they are going to codify that information, how they're going to make it personal to themselves is the right way, and they're actually storing the right information. So I'm seeing some more comments here. Learning isn't just about absorbing content, it's mostly about building relationships. And when this happens, deep learning is a must. Thank you very much. That's a very good point. Building relationships, making those connections. Deep learning is nurturing the learners through the subject matter. Okay, so I have here this fantastic teacher, and she's saying, I taught my year 3 class how to solve simultaneous equations. Wow, awesome, awesome. And there's someone here who's asking, you know, I have never seen them solving any equations. And her response, I said I taught them. I didn't say they learned it. So you'll find that sometimes there's a lot of teaching going on and very little learning. Teaching does not mean learning. I taught it doesn't mean they learned it. So we must be mindful of that just because you have ticked the box on that curriculum plan, I've done it, they know it, or you're having other year groups and you say, yes, they've done it in year 3. Look at my plan. But the children have not actually gotten that. And that is why this focus on deep learning is so important. When we're looking at learning, because I'm going to move now into assessment, you know, we're looking, and we just want to have that foundation. Start with the end in mind. Start with the end in mind. Your learning objective, your success criteria. What exactly do you want these children to learn? And what are you going to be checking for? What is the evidence? How am I going to prove that my children in early years are solving simultaneous equations? Am I going to, you know, ask them to, am I going to give them, I taught them, have they really learned it? To give them simultaneous equations to solve on their own and, you know, answer and all that. I'm using a very, you know, very wild idea just to let us understand how important your learning objectives and your success criteria are. This is where assessment begins. When you're able to articulate what exactly it is you want students to learn. Please note, topic. Your topic is not your objective. If I walk into a class, what are you learning today? And they say to me, what are they? They do not understand. They do not even know what they're learning. But if you're able to start your lesson and articulate clearly, we are learning to add one-digit number, a one-digit number to another one-digit number. Immediately you know that, yes, these children understand the assignment. They know what they're in this class to do. So how are you going to show your teacher you can add one-digit number to a one-digit number to another one-digit number? Well, when I do this, that, or the other, she's going to check. She's giving us this question. I'm seeing a 1 digit plus 1 digit and is equal to another. You have the answer there, so that child understands. And what that does for us as teachers, it makes our work easier. It makes our job easier. When children know where they're going, it helps us. So your learning objectives It's a statement that clearly describes what students are expected to achieve as a action. So I'm going to teach you this, and this is what I expect you to learn. And your success criteria, the standards, the levels, your learning objective has been achieved successfully. So success criteria are linked to your learning outcomes and targets. Children must be aware of their targets. So I found this video online. We're not going to watch the whole thing, but just for us to see someone using success criteria to foster learning. So I'm going to be jumping some bits.
Can we have a read together of what we're going to be doing today? Having a look up at our learning intention. Can we all read it out as a class? We are learning to count a collection efficiently. I want you to have a think about, what does that mean? What do we mean to count a collection? I am a graduate teacher still, so still learning the ropes. I've been in 5-6 for the whole time I've been teaching. And to get them interested and wanting to learn in maths, we played the pick the number game. And during that, we focused on, I suppose, place value and the vocabulary of between. I'm going to introduce another word today. And when we're playing our game today, we're going to be working on between. So if I was to give you an example and I had a number, I would be saying something like, is my number between? Can we have 600?
What I wanted us to see was how she started her lesson. She first talked about the learning objective. And if you look on her board, she's broken it down.
Marriott, I am a graduate teacher still. What do we mean that we're going
how they're going to get to where she wants them to go? I can count tens and ones to find a total. I can add a single digit number to it. These are all the things that they're going to do. Maybe not in that particular lesson, but in the course of getting to where they're able to count a collection effectively. Please, you can watch this video to the end on YouTube. It's a short video. I think it's only about 3 minutes or 2-3 minutes, but just for us to see the importance of starting right so that the students are on board and they understand what are for them. So assessment for learning. I am sure that we have heard this and heard this and heard this so many times, and we cannot talk about it because this is really key for, fostering deep learning and getting your learners to really own their learning. It's an approach to teaching and learning that creates feedback, which is then used to improve students' performance. So the strong element here is feedback. How they get their feedback and how they use the feedback and how you use the feedback as their teacher. So key question that we start with is, where am I now? So for your students, where are they now? Oh, sorry, I think it's your, we're still together. Someone said she's not following network. Is it from my side? I should, no, okay, great. Thank you, Dr. Wani. So where am I now? Where is the student now? Yes, I will send the link of the video. No worries. Ms. Tommy has the link, the file, the PowerPoint, so don't worry, you get the link. Where am I now? This question, I didn't say, where are you now? I said, where am I now? So your students should be able to ask themselves this question. Where am I now in my learning? What do I know? So you've just started a topic and you want to know, where are they? Maybe you want to introduce multiplication. So multiplication, have you heard of multiplication before? Never. Have you heard of numbers before? Never. So you know you're going to start from 0, 1 to 5. You teach them to count, and then you teach them to add, then you teach them to multiply. So where am I now is a very important question. What do you know? Where am I going? So dear teacher, so you don't waste our time in this session, where are you taking us to? What do you want me to learn today? What do you want me to learn this term? Break it down for the students. Your very first lesson to them. So this year in English, we're going to be reading 2 books, and we're going to be looking at this, that, and the other about the books. We're going to be studying the author. We're going to do da. They have an idea of where they're going. We're not doing all this in one lesson. They understand that. And so our first lesson today, this is what we're going to be focusing on. Immediately, they're with you because they know exactly what is expected in this lesson. Well, normally what happens is we're doing English. Bring out your English book. Topic, nouns, verb. Underline your dates. Underline your dates. Learning objective. Have you copied it? Yes. Have you written the subject? Okay. Now open page 15, number 1 to 5. Answer it and come. And then they bring it. And somebody is unfortunate to have all of them wrong. Some of them are fortunate because they already knew your teaching style. They did their own studying at home and they get 5 out of 5. Somebody gets 1 out of 5. Are you angry with the one that got 1 out of 5? When they didn't even, you just took them by surprise. Where am I going? It's a very important question that the student needs to answer. How do I get there? What do I need to do to show you, or what do I need to show you as evidence that I am there? So all these things must be well articulated in our planning, in our lesson planning, our curriculum planning, the plan for the term, plan for the year, and all that. Please, if you have any questions, just type in the chat. So we'll have time for questions and answers afterwards. We want to look at practical ways, right, of assessing for learning in our classrooms, in our schools. And I've put here as the number 1 thing, use technology. All our children are on technology. In fact, my daughter has left me behind. I thought I was a tech person. My 13-year-old, she's left me in this technology game. So that's where they are connecting. So we must know as well how to connect with them online. There's so many tools online for assessing formatively. Kahoot, Mentimeter, Nearpod, Socrative Teacher, most of them have a platform where you can, after the end of a unit, at the end of a unit, you might just want to ask them a few questions to check the learning. It's all there on your board. If they have tablets in class, if they have their laptops in the classroom, you can just quickly check the learning. But all these things must be prepared before the class. It's not when you're in the classroom, you start setting up the Kahoot. You've already set it up while you were planning. So these are just a few tools that you can use to assess formatively in your classroom. So some other strategy that you can use, and note that these strategies are also elements of those online assessments for learning platforms. What do you do when there's a gulf between where they are and where they are going, where assumed previous knowledge is not really there? So let me answer that question before I go on. What do you do when there's a gulf between where they are now and where they are going? So your students are in year 5, right? And you want to start, they should have already learned all the different ways of adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, and you get to year 5 and you find that this child cannot do long division, or cannot, I mean, dumb division is far, maybe cannot multiply 2-digit by 2-digit numbers, or is unable to write a text, a paragraph, doesn't even know what a paragraph is, doesn't know how to use paragraphs in their writing. So what do? You go back, you start asking your questions. Other ways to do AFL where there's no technology. Yes, yes, definitely. I will definitely mention that. So you go back for that child who that gap is huge. You need to go back step by step. And this is where AFL is important, because you have to ask the right questions. Okay. You have to ask the right questions to elicit where it starts from and where the gap ends, and what you need to do in the middle to get them there. So for such a child, that's where your differentiation comes in. And you must now go back for that child and get material from maybe a lower level and start building up gradually. You can't expect that child to be at the level of the class immediately. You have to put those little steps in between. Sometimes, like when you're building a Lego and you miss out a piece, you might have to scatter everything, start again, put that piece where it's supposed to be so you can put the next Lego block on top. So you have to go back and find out where that gap is, fill that gap. Don't be too concerned about completing your curriculum or content, because there's no point for that child. You'll just be making the gap wider. So you would have to go back and address that gap for moving forward with where you want to be with that particular child. So some AFL strategies that you could use, like I said, these are also integrated into those online, tech platforms. But you can do these without the internet. You can do these. All you need is paper, pen and paper, or just call out the questions and all. Multiple choice is a good way of checking, where students are. Give them options, and from the kind of options they even select, when from the mistakes or the errors that they make in your multiple choice, you're able to address, you're able to see misconceptions. So you give them different options, and if you find the whole class is picking a particular wrong option, then teaching them how light travels in a straight line. That's the main concept you need them to understand. Light travels in a straight line, and you have your there, and you ask, how did the shadow form? And somebody says, or your whole class says, the light went around the object. Immediately, you know that all of them have not gotten that concept right. You need to go back and check. So multiple choice is a good way of checking for where your students are now, and also give they need to be going. Close activities, fill in the gaps. This is a beautiful way of knowing. I'm not going to talk about all of them. Close activity, a very good way of checking of your students. Fill in the gaps. Partner questioning. So you've taught, and you want to see how well they've understood. So maybe it's a geography lesson, and you've just, okay, now you're going to write down 5 questions for your partner. Swap your questions, okay? Mark each other's answers. This is a beautiful way of, when you're setting questions from what you've learned, or you have to think about, what question can I ask this person so that I can really check if you understood. You are also deepening. So that's a fantastic one. Like I said, I'm not going to talk about all of them. Today is another good one for retrieval. So you have questions where it can be just one question from what we learned last week, one question for what you're going to teach them today, and one you're going to teach them much later on to see who has even gone ahead of the class. And then there's solo, structured, observed learning outcomes. Ask them, what do you already know? Name 2 things you've learned. Name as many things as you can that you have learned. And then from that number 3, you now ask them, can you make a connection between some in number connections between those things that you've learned today? Can you kind of, you're encouraging them to make those connections, put it all together, is strengthened. Are we still together?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are.
Great. Great.
Yes.
So, key AFL strategies. Questioning is number 1. You ask questions to get the students to think. You ask questions to get the children to check what they're learning, and for you to also check what they've learned so far. So questioning is a key skill, and we're going to see more of that later. Giving feedback before, during, after, during the whole process of learning. You're giving and you're receiving feedback from. Sharing success criteria. This is so important. Let me know exactly what you expect of me so that you're not upset when you don't see what you're looking for, because you never told me what you were looking for. You know, it's like saying to your child, go and get that thing from my room, go and get that thing from my room. And your child is upstairs in your room wondering, what is the thing? I don't even know the thing. You have not told the child what they're supposed to be looking for. And they come down and they bring your shoes. I didn't say my shoes, that thing, you know. So we need to be able to specify, go and get my handbag from there. Go and get this from whatever, or help you. I want in so amount of time, make it very specific, make it very clear. Care and self-assessment. So like I mentioned in the partner bit when we're looking at some AFL strategies, peer assessment. Students in your class, you know, you've given them what a good piece of work looks like. You've given them what an excellent piece of work looks like. And you might even want to give them what a not so good piece of work looks like, depending on the situation. So they know where they're aiming for excellence. They want to give you the very. So peer assessment, there's an example that they all can look at, and they are to say, oh, well, all your sentences don't start with and with full stops and things like that. So using summative assessments formatively, and we do that a lot, especially when we're preparing our students for IGCSEs. You use the past question papers and you use that to, maybe you've just taught the topic on a topic from IGCSE, web authoring. And you go and get past question papers and you just get all those questions on web authoring for them to practice answering in class. And so you have the mark scheme. Mark schemes are so useful when you're doing AFL. So you have the mark scheme. This is what a good answer looks like. So let's check your answer with what's on this mark scheme. And the student is able to see, oh, well, I left out this information, mental notes to self, they need to include that and all that. So what you're doing is you're helping them understand what the expectations from the Cambridge examiner. You're helping them to understand where they might trip up, where they might make an error. You're helping them to identify their own misconceptions and things like that. So addressing misconceptions is also very important. When students believe, you know, sometimes children will solve problems in maths, or you answer a question, it looks right, but the way they got to the answer, it won't work in certain situations. So they need to understand that there's a process, or there's a way of doing this. And this is not to say that
assessment and
so addressing misconceptions is key, so that we know where students have not quite understood the expectations and we can redirect them as much as possible. Self-directed learning is is fostered when we use AFL correctly. The students are able to, direct themselves. You redirect them once or twice, they get it, and they even know before you even get there, they already know, oh, there's a mistake here, I haven't done something right, and they're able to themselves out. So I got these images of what peer assessment looks like. Students checking each other's work to see, and in this picture, you can see that they've both gotten the same one wrong. So this is fantastic feedback for the teacher that if both of them checked each other, this is an error. Maybe I need to go back to how I taught that particular concept, or we need to see where did the gap happen. So assessment is so important. Self-assessment is the most powerful form of assessment because this is where learning happens. When you're able to find on your own what your strengths are and what you know, and you're able to articulate, I know this, I don't know this, I need to do more of this, I need to do less of that. That is powerful. It's a powerful tool for learning. So, in looking at assessment, I found these questions which I think would be really useful for promoting your students' confidence, developing their reasoning, and helping them to think collaboratively. So this helps with self-assessment. How did you come up with your answer? And I know most times this happens in the maths and sciences. You can also use this even in English. If you ask them to write an essay for you, and so you've given them guidelines for the context of this essay. So how did you come up with this essay? Let's go back to the guidelines. Okay, your text is supposed to be a non-fiction text. This non-fiction, okay, what are the features of non-fiction in your text? It's sounding like a fiction text. I can see Once Upon a Time, and that's, you're in year 9. I shouldn't be seeing Once Upon a Time in a year 9 piece of writing. I should see that in maybe year 1, 2, where they're still learning to write fairy tales and all. But year 9, I'm expecting you to start with a powerful story opener and a hook. So how did you come up with your answer? Now, what if you could when you're promoting reflection, you're helping them to think of different possibilities. They're not stuck in one, it's not one track, shallow learning kind of thing. They are thinking, okay, well, if I could do this instead of this, I would probably do this better. So maybe I've given you a prompt, and I'm asking you now to think outside the box. What if you had started at a different point? What went well and why? What could have gone better and why? What do you know now that you didn't know before? So this is just to help them reflect on their learning. And so it doesn't mean that so your next class, you're going to take all these questions and ask all these questions in one lesson. You'll not have time to do anything else. But, you could take any of these. What went well? Why? It sort you out for that class. So now, when we talk about building confidence, because I said self-assessment is really powerful. Why is that true? You are giving the student the opportunity to explain their answer, to explain their thinking, their reasoning, and to show that they actually put some thought into this thing. They thought critically, and they were able to come up with a solution, so to speak. They were able to make meaning of it and provide a solution. How did you reach that conclusion? Does that make sense to everybody else? Can you show me how you came up with that? So when a child is explaining to the class, well, first I did this, I did that, and all that, they're confident in their learning and they're able to do, or they're willing to do even more and to learn more. Then develop reasoning. In what ways is that true for all cases? So you maybe in could be a history lesson, and you want them to just look at different scenarios. This happened in this war. This war was caused by that. This war was caused by this. Let's think about it. So the reason for this particular incident, could it also be the reason for that incident? Is this what causes all wars all over the world? Could there be other reasons? You're getting them to think more deeply right there with you in the classroom. Are there alternatives? How would you prove it beyond doubt? So, when I said when we're looking at assessment for learning and deep learning, the teacher being a learner with the students, you learn so much from your students when you're following them on this critical thinking, reasoning journey, asking these questions. Their answers sometimes are, beyond what you would have expected from them. Then encourage them to think collaboratively. What do you think about what this person said? Do you agree with that person or not? So in a class, something we do sometimes, I've seen this in the English class where the children come up with a presentation and the class has the rubrics that they're using to score this presentation. So everybody is scoring and okay, you made your presentation. Okay, did she smile during her presentation? Did she use the keywords that we're looking for in this presentation? So the whole class is there and all that. So again, after that, you can also ask these questions. What do you think about what this person said? Maybe it's a controversial issue and you want them to discuss it further. You want to hear how they think and how they receive information from other people to create meaning for themselves as well, and how much it influences their own thinking. So these quick questioning tips are so useful for drawing out information from students. You can use these to just check learning at every point. Make a statement and ask people to agree or disagree with you, justifying why. Now, we don't do randomly, because if I just walk into the class, I think of this question I want to ask students, okay, justify. I'm not actually, what exactly am I looking for in their answers? So before all that, you already know, your key, you have like a checklist, you know what you're listening to hear, what you need to hear. So you want the children to, we said character is one of the things we're building. You want them to be responsible, or you want them to show that they're responsible. What are the kind of things that you want to see in your classroom? Ask a table to respond collectively, scan the room for the right child for a question, pose a question for groups to answer, and all that. So questioning is key. The questions you ask, lower order thinking questions, high order thinking questions, all important. Now in AFL, there's some common techniques that we know about. I'm just going to show about 3 minutes of this video, not the whole, it's a long video, but there were just some important things to do. So there's this classroom experiment that Dylan Williams conducted, just looking at this issue of success criteria, formatively assessing students in the classroom, and things that we can use to assess formatively. And he talks about using the traffic lights. We're all familiar with the traffic lights, green, we're together, I understand. Amber, I'm still on the fence, I need more clarification. And then red, I am not with you at all, I do not understand. So the traffic lights, very good way of checking for learning, and check who right there in the lesson. You don't wait till the end. As you're teaching, as you're talking, you're asking, you don't understand this, I get this, I don't get that, and you address those issues immediately. I also talked about something about the no hands up in the classroom. So the no hands up is, you can raise up your hands to answer the question.
Who are answering everything you ask them are actually getting smarter.
Sorry. So you can't, for the no hands up, the teacher, you can't just say, So who knows the answer? Like, okay, so what's 2 plus 2? Who knows the answer? Or, you know, what's a prism? How does a prism reflect light and all that? Who knows the answer? Everybody raising up their hands is rowdy, and you find that some children will never raise up their hands. They will never raise up their hands. They don't even want you to know they're in that class, and that could actually limit their learning. So when you come up with the no hands up rule, what you do is have a way of children to answer the questions, and they all know that I could be called on to answer a question at any point in time. So that you have all their names. Maybe I used to just put their names on a sheet of paper, roll it up, put it in a jar in front of the table, and I just pick out their name and answer that. And then, of course, when you want a particular child to answer a question, you could actually kind of just call that name anyway, just to let, but the idea is everybody knows they can be called upon, so everybody's thinking of what they will say if they are called upon. Yes, Sunday Okwatu, your hand is up.
Yes, I must say I have a takeaway. One before you go on, I just not have to mention it, and it is this no hands up. I think it's very important. You just have to say it. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you. So this is what he noticed, and he was sharing with the teacher. So he said the only time you have to raise your hand up in the class is if you want to ask a question. And so it really worked. At first, I don't know, I don't have much time, but I'm going to share this link. Watch the video. It's an 11-minute video, and you see the children at first very reluctantly not raising their hands. They don't like the whole idea and all that. But then eventually they actually like it. Even those children that would never raise their hands up, they now started to enjoy the class.
Okay, disappointment and sad.
So the teacher has put all their names on ice cream sticks, and she can just pick one ice cream stick with someone's name to answer the question.
Hands down, no, hands up.
So
Holly, where's Holly?
look at the body language of the children. They don't like it at first. They're laughing and all that, but eventually they caught on to it. And when they interviewed them later, they said they actually liked it because it gave everybody a chance to talk, and it wasn't only the bright people in the class who always answer all the time. Gave the students a chance.
He wants to have a little go first. So what is it mean?
And then one teacher actually
domestic servant might be?
put all the names in a cup and give it to a student. Pick any name, pick someone question. So that's another tool you can use to get more engagement in your classrooms, get the students to participate more.
Even Chloe is convinced.
I'm not too keen on the sticks because if someone gets normally like if someone gets
stop here
doesn't know the answer
and move on. So if you want your children, your students to, yes, it would help us learners to be attentive. Fantastic. So if you want your students to be properly engaged in the learning and not just taking notes and whatever you say goes, try and engage them in project-based learning. Give them a project where they have to work on it with each other, and not a project for project's sake. It's something that is actually linked to what you're doing in the curriculum. It's you want to teach them to write. Why not make it a group writing project? Geography. You want them to find out about maybe weather, climate, or something in another, or compare their climate here to there, or how it affects lives in different countries depending on the landscape here. How's the landscape there? Give them a project and have them research, come up with ideas. You know what I found? They will find out even more than you expected because they will go all out, they're owning it, they want to impress, they want to show you all they've learned, they want all their classmates to learn, because the thing with learning is it's infectious. When you start and you're all excited about it, I have to teach someone this, I can't wait to share what I found out. Interesting wow facts. You know, children, they're looking for fun things, they're looking for fun facts, and you are just trying to finish your curriculum, but they will go all out and help you do that lesson even better than you would have. So student-led class, well, once in a while, let the students lead. We had a student who was really good she was fantastic in history. IG, so that LPSG, she said she wanted to come back and help with teaching, like be like a class assistant to the teacher, to history, to her junior one. So of course the teacher was there, but so, you know, we're getting to a point in this world where very soon, you know, these soft skills that we teach our children are what will pay them in the future. So she came in and she was teaching, you know, just like an internship kind of thing before she left for university. Class discussions are important, very important. They're saying that will help you understand even beyond your subject, the dynamics of your class. You know, we said character, citizenship. You will even, as they're talking, you know those people who don't listen to other people. You identify those students who will never accept their mind. Somebody said something about mindset learning is, they will not change their mind. It's what I know is what I know, and that's how it's going to be. So as you listen to their discussions, have them bouncing off ideas off each other, creating new ideas, creating new solutions. You're also taking note of how well you're doing in that area of developing deep students. Your flipped classroom, what they're going to do. I was talking to someone the other day and he mentioned that it was an ICT teacher, and he said how he uses this playlist where he just, all the work the students are going to use, they're going to do, they already have it. So they just come into class, they already know, they already know what to do. Some of them have gone ahead of the class, they've done the work, and so it just makes it easier, and they love it because it's now a thing of, you know, wow, I've studied it, I know it. It's not just to tell the teacher I know that I'm enjoying this and I'm doing this, because, you know, students must enjoy the learning, or you're wasting your time if they will just hate your subject and because of you. You know, so it's important that we make the learning fun and give them ownership of their learning. So this is one skill, or shall I say an attitude, that our students need. And you see, we don't want to be a lifelong learner, a deep learner. You can't give up. You must stay the course. Even from early years, we're teaching children to be, you know, to keep at it, have a go, try it, and keep at it until you get it right. In the secondary school as well, of course, primary, same thing. Have a go, keep at it, because grit is what we need to survive. Anyone who gives up too easily with learning, it's too difficult. I don't like division. I don't like maths. I don't like the other. So there are ways that we can get them to stick at it, keep going. And that's why now I want us, okay, so I didn't pick English, maths, or science. I picked something that I know is a bit tricky and which can also come up in your English, maths, and science. How do you teach children to be resilient? So at this point, I'll be looking for suggestions from the house. Suggest an activity that we could use to teach children resilience in whatever subject we're teaching them. There's a comment here. My infant, I use imaginary spot the child to answer a question at random. This gets them all alert and excited to know who will be called upon, so they're always alert and engaged. Well done. That's very good. Sounds like fun. Thank you, Ms. Seriki. So who can suggest so resilience is sticking at a task, staying on the course until it is done. Who would like to suggest something that they do or we could do in our classes to what activity can we do? Maybe in your subject. I'm waiting. Pegging, okay, early years. Pegging is a fun way to teach resilience. Yes, seeing them do that. And early years can be so, it's either they give up quickly or they just stay at it. And even when you're tired, you say, okay, we're done with this activity. No, I must finish. Puzzles, fantastic. Puzzles are a very good group. Project-based activities can teach students to be resilient. How would you use that? Solving puzzles, project-based activities. How would that teach them to be resilient? Can you shed more light on that? Great teaching. Thank you. Sorting. Okay, you need to stay to the end. Maybe you're like, this is Fakoya running a race. And I would always proudly be the last one on that race, but I will get to that finish line. And I would advise the PE teacher to stop putting me in races. Motivation, yes. So so we're all just saying words. And I said, suggest an activity to teach students how to be resilient. So I did not share my success criteria properly. Teamwork and assessment. Give me one activity. I've seen pegging from early years. Okay, I want one from primary and I want one from secondary. As a secondary teacher, I'm sure we have secondary teachers on this call. How would you teach your children resilience? I've seen puzzles, so don't put puzzles anymore. What could you do in your classroom? Maybe I should leave you with that thought. That's your homework. Teamwork and assessment. Hot sitting, repetition of tasks, issuing tasks in little quantities and building on them. Thank you. Word search. That's secondary. Mr. Officer, thank you so much. Word search. Okay, cooking tips of their favorite. Cooking tips, I don't understand that one. Technopova, what do you mean? Tips of their favorite. Dramatizing, wow. What is the Tarsia? This is Odubono. Tarsia task, can you explain what that is to us?
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Fakoya. For Tarsia, you have activities whereby you have questions, and it's in form of puzzles, whereby the students would answer the questions and they will match it with the answers. At the end of the day, they come out with different pictures, and the pictures could also be used as classroom displays as well.
So if they don't get all the questions right, they don't get the picture.
They won't get the picture. So they need to be able to answer all the questions, match the questions and the answers together for them to come up with the pictures. They could also have what we call like a talent game, talent hunt game, whereby usually this is advice for outdoor learning. The children go out, you have different places where you post the answer. So once you solve a question, it leads you to the next clue. You get the clue to the next question and you get there. Oftentimes you see students, once they get to a certain point, they get discouraged. So for you to teach resilience, there's a gift attached. When you get to the last answer, of course, when you get there, you get your gifts. You get to the last answer, there's a gift waiting for you there. So for students that really wants to win the gifts, they have to continue until they get the final answer.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that. So we're learning something. I've learned Tasia today. Tasia task, student-led tutoring, interested, engaging, increasing practice, time and duration, engaging homework, focusing on process rather than final answer in maths concepts. Okay, that for teaching resilience. I'm just reading out the comments. Image description method. I'm not sure what that means. Image description method. Would you like to explain that to us?
Yes, ma. Image description method, a situation whereby you have some images on the topics and you can project it for the children to just have a look of the images and share their own experiences by describing it in line to the topic.
So that would teach them to be resilient, to keep
Yes.
at it, to get to the end. Okay, thank you all so much for these ideas. From rice, I was curious, bean seed from rice grain. How do you get a bean seed from a rice grain? Oh, a sorting activity. Sort out all the bean seeds from the rice grains. I get it now. That makes sense. So what are you taking away from this session? And give you time for questions. What am I taking away from this session? I've learned that Tasia task is something I'm going to use in my classroom. That's what I'm taking away from this session. Oh, there are more comments here. Blind contour drawing. Blind contour drawings are made from one continuous line and completed without looking at your paper. Wow. Thank you, Mr. Frederick Yakubu. Interesting. Never heard of that. Okay, I'm also taking contour drawing. Problem-based projects, raising funds for an orphanage. Okay, lovely. That's a very good example, very practical, very real life. Raising funds is not a joke. So that they really need resilience for that. And thank you so much, Mr. Dubona, for sharing the Tasia Maker. So please use that link, guessing games between student-led class and discussion class. So student-led class is a class where your students are facilitated, so to speak. Like there's a teacher, the English teacher at the English and literature teacher, it was a form tutor. He would have every week, everyone they knew the day they were going to do their presentation. They had their topic, they would do PowerPoints, and they would teach their children about, and the class about that topic. So he would just go over the slides, with them, make sure it's good enough for presenting, correct any misconceptions. And then the student will be in control of that class, and classmates are asking the students questions. So that's a student-led class. And also when your objectives come from perceived needs of your students. So maybe you wanted to teach something, and in the course of teaching, a question came up, and it's really not part of what you need to teach, but you know that they need to learn it. You might say to them, you know what, this question came from you. This need is from the student. Actually address it. That's a manner of student-led learning, because it's what the students actually want to learn, not just what you want to teach. So that's different from a class discussion, in the sense that in a class discussion, the teacher is still facilitating the learning, but he's facilitating the discussions as well. The students are talking. It could be that it's the teacher that has given the topic of discussion, or the teacher is leading, in the sense of what they're discussing in that sense. So do you get the difference? Mercy Echeta, Miss Mercy Echeta. Mr. Dubona, thank you so much. Guessing games for early years teaching. Okay, so are you typing in the chat box what you have gotten from this session? If you have.
Mrs. Fakaya, well done, beautiful.
Thank you.
Very, very, very good and insightful. I'll be going off soon, but I just wanted, if you can allow, just for us to make some comments, you know, and so should I say, yeah, you're on questions, and I feel it's also a good time to, you know, maybe kind of summarize, you know, what you have taught. Honestly, the best part for me, or one of the things I'm taking away, was the actual activity for building resilience. Because it's good to say, oh yes, you will do this, you encourage them, the supportive classroom, but activities that we can do made it very, very practical. Well done. So I just want to kind of summarize, you know, some of the things you said, because as you know, assessment for learning, you know, fostering deep learning is something I'm very, very passionate about. And just some things that I don't want us to gloss over. So you have said it and no one can say it better, but also just kind of something to we know repetition, we know the strength of repetition. So Abayomi, I don't know if you have that pyramid that that for deep learning. Can you please pull it up? So when we're thinking of deep learning and just what it looks like at a glance, I want us to have this pyramid at the back of our minds. You know, just one pyramid, one picture in our minds of what deep learning looks like. So I want us to look at this, and once we have it, that is deep learning. Because a child who is, you know, going through deep learning would have all these things on this pyramid, all of them together. And you see, we can't give what we don't have. So if this is what deep learning is, and all the children are supposed to have in order to have gone through deep learning, that means the teachers themselves must be equipped with it. So as Mrs. Fakoya has said, mastery. You have, in fact, all the examples you gave, we're able to take examples from one subject to the other. I found that very impressive. It shows mastery of subject content. So as teachers, if our children are going to be engaged in deep learning, there must be mastery of the subject content that we're teaching and they are learning. For you cannot teach anyone, they can only learn. You know, so we attempt to teach, but the children themselves must be ready to learn. So now, subject content there must be mastery. Keyword is mastery. Beyond that, as Mrs. Fakoya has said, there must be all those 21st century global competencies, all the skills she has mentioned. When we're talking about skills, life and career skills, ICT skills, metacognitive skills, which is the more recent one. Cognitive skills, we've always known, but metacognitive skills is the key thing now, when a child takes ownership of their own learning. And then learning and thinking skills, the 4 C's that we'll talk about, and other skills that they need. And of course, we have attitude. Everything is wrapped in attitude. I don't know if you mentioned the 21st century themes a lot, but for deep learning is also very, very important to know about your health, financial literacy, to know about your environment, to know, you know, about citizenship and all this, which you did mention. So I think this is just what a picture, because sometimes when we're thinking deep learning, we're just thinking of the subject. It's not just all these things, you know, will bring about deep learning. So I just wanted to summarize everything you said in a pictorial form by showing this. And then the final thing I would say is when we come to the to AFL and the components of AFL, you've mentioned them so beautifully. But I just want to reiterate, because I don't want this to be theory. I don't want us to, oh, okay, we went for this training. How do we use it in our classrooms? And one of the, you mentioned the 5, questioning. I like the contribution too that says, you know, that get no hands up policy is so beautiful. It is so key. The wait time to get all the children to even be able to come up, instead of, you know, people just saying things from their head, from the top of their head. You know, wait time is very important in questioning. No hand policy is also good. No child is intimidated. There are some children, we say, oh, the fast learners or the brilliant one put up their hands. It's not every child that puts up their hand that is brilliant. Some are just like, before you say something, their hands are up. And they say some things, they're wondering where on earth did that come from. So when we're looking at questioning, having that wait time to let children process, and then they're bringing these things from, you know, having thought deeply about it. No hands policy, all those things are good. But in addition, as Mrs. Fakoya has said, it is developing, letting them develop their own questions. It is the strongest way to, you know, to foster deep learning. And they'll tell you today, even teaching children as part of their study habit. When you study, they call it chunking. When you study like for 30 minutes or whatever, or you've studied a chapter or something, close your book and then ask yourself questions. First of all, try and remember what you read, and then ask yourself questions. It is a skill for individuals, and is also very good, you know, in fostering deep learning. So formulating questions. How can I formulate questions when I don't know, or when the knowledge is not deep or thorough enough? So when I'm able to formulate questions, it means that I have, to a very large degree, understood, you know, the lesson. So it's very key. Talking about questioning, I'm reiterating wait time, no hands policy, and formulating questions. You talked about feedback. There are 5 components of EFL. You talked about feedback. Sorry, there's someone that's unmuted. Can you please? You know, we talked about feedback. It is said that feedback is the lifeblood of EFL.
Now, which one? Which one?
Mrs. Fakoya, is that you? Someone is. It is said, and somebody is unmuted and is distracted. So it is said that feedback is the lifeblood of AFL, because it is me receiving, as a teacher, receiving feedback from the children, from the work I've given them, by going around, by asking questions, by, you know, when I'm monitoring and I see, oh, half of the class, I'm getting feedback, by asking them, giving them feedback, and all those things. Feedback is so key to AFL. Then you've talked about, you know, peer assessment, self-assessment, and using summative assessment for formative purposes. It's also key. It is only in Nigeria, I think, that lecturers will teach children and they are bragging about how many of them failed. You use, they failed that class. In fact, they failed it. I don't understand it. You are supposed to do that summative assessment, and it should act as a judgment for you and a way for you to see where the children are failing. So you can use it and turn it around to help them to pass exams. So using summative assessment formatively is key. As a roundup, all these things, peer assessment. One thing when I, you know, doing some research, I realized something, and this is where I end. A lot of us talk about peer assessment, self-assessment, and all that, but we do not train our children on how. So children do peer assessment and they think it's only about marking each other's work. What is the objective? What are we trying to get them to understand through peer assessment? It is the fact that peer assessment is the foundation of self-assessment. As I'm marking assessing my colleagues, peers' work, I'm learning. I'm seeing where I got mine wrong or whatever. So it shouldn't just be, okay, everybody, again, is like having success criteria. Why am I doing this? Train the children. A lot of us just tell them, do self-assessment, you assess yourself. Why? Why is it good to assess yourself? Because it gets you to understand your own learning. You can take charge of your own learning. It is what is called metacognition. So it is that aspect of actually, it's almost like having a meeting and training session for our students in secondary school, that we do these things. This is the reason why we do peer assessment. This is the reason why we do self-assessment. Teach them how to do it properly. Teach them how to feedback. Because when I feedback properly, when I do peer assessment and I feedback properly, they are bringing clarity to themselves, their own understanding, and to the person they assessed, the work. And they say that sometimes when teachers cannot get across to children, students between themselves, they can get across to each other. So it is so important to, not just to do these things, to explain to the children why. That is just what I wanted to say, just to add, to what you've said. Thank you very much, Dr. Fakoya. I don't know, can we just all clap for Dr.
Thank you, Dr. Wani.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fakoya. Okay. So I'll ask if we have any questions, if we have any further questions for Dr. Fakoya, can we, she's still able to take a few more questions at this time, please. Any more questions? Okay. Yes, Mr. Sunday, please go ahead. Thank
All
you.
right. I'm interested in knowing. Now, I was the one that asked the question about when there is a gulf between where the child is and where he is going. And I liked your answer. You said we should go back, take them back to where they missed it and begin to build up from that end. Is that what you said? So my question is, how do you marry that with, being with managers who want you to finish? They are more interested in finishing your curriculum than knowing where the child is and the progress of the child. And that's one. And the other end, how do you now assess the child, knowing that this child has not come up to the level where the other members of the class is? Do you give them the same, summatively now, at the end of the term, let's say, you give them the same tests, the same assessment, the same exams? Thank you.
So thank you very much for that question. And I think every teacher would like answered. We always have those students in the class who, they're not moving with the pace of the class, but they have to write the same exam, and they will write the same exam. It's very important. You see, information feedback is key. Key people that must have feedback from you: parents and your line manager. You must articulate clearly, this is where the student is, this is why. So what usually happens, maybe in a school system, a child has a teacher that didn't teach them anything for the whole of year 2. They now land in your year 3 class, and you are now bearing the brunt of it, so to speak. As much as possible, we should try and use every incident like this to help to even improve the whole system in our schools. Give your feedback. This child, unless you want me to engage in dubious practices and pass this child, which no teacher under the sound of my voice should be engaged in. What is the plan B? This is my plan for this student. And if I've found that most times we're afraid to let parents know exactly where their child is, especially when that child is not doing well. And that gives us more problems. It's better to have the parents on board where this child is. Have a meeting. Of course, you're not going to call in the parents without your management, or whoever you report to. Start from the beginning. Look, this is the case with this child. This is what I want to do, and so on and so forth. Okay, well, you have to finish your curriculum. Well, if I'm able to do this, and it will involve sacrifice on your part too, I will put in this extra effort to bring this child up to here. But you, with your professional judgment, you will know that this is my target for this child. The target for this child, you can't have the same target for all the children in the class. Yes, there's a general target that by the end of year, all they should know. But this particular child, that's end of year 3 target for him. He might still need to meet end of year 2 targets. So a lot of things add up to cause this kind of issues in the classroom. But when you have that child and you know that there's no hope. So I had a child once in a primary 3 class who was he was an autistic child, and the school did not recognize special needs. So he was in my class. And I was like, I have no choice. This child must succeed. I worked with the parents. Working with parents is so important. Management, this is what I want to do. I'm going to talk to the parents. I need them to take him for this, get that approval, and then start working. Once the parents are on your side, you won't have problems. Once they understand this is your child's honest situation. And why I keep talk to management, make sure that you are speaking the same language as your school management. Because if it's a problem that is systemic, you don't want to now tell the parents, oh, it's the year 2 teacher that didn't teach the child. Okay, that was it. Do you understand? So you must also exercise some wisdom and focus on making sure that that child makes progress. I can't speak for your school management, but I know that one thing we're passionate about in Meadow Hall is using data on the learning to help them make progress. So we see what they are doing now. We know where they should be. We know how they should get there. We know what we need to do. We meet, we discuss, we plan so that that child will be able to make progress. And you find that some children, all they need is that specialized attention, that special attention to their own needs. And you find that that target that you thought they couldn't even meet, once you just put that missing block in for them, I think the real work there is identifying the missing block, putting it in, and that child will be able to fly. It's like a train track that, one of the rails has gone off. The train cannot go forward until you put that rail back so that the train can go forward. So in terms of your management, I wouldn't know how, you can't just change decisions on your own in your classroom, but as much as possible, focus on that child, present your case, and let them know, this is the situation with this child. Yes, I'm covering my curriculum. Everybody else is moving fast, but in the exam, this child is not expected. This child, if everybody is getting 80%, I'm expecting 50% for this child. If he scores 50%, that's an excellent mark. But if everybody knows and you have data to back it up, then it's an easier process. Dr. Wani, do you want to shed more light on this?
Okay, yes, and there's a question too by Techno that I'd like to answer. So I think Yvonne said it very well. Like I did a research once about effective teachers, and it wasn't in the public school or private, it was just about teachers. And I interviewed some teachers, and I felt the frustration of some teachers where their professionalism wasn't being respected by the school because, for example, they haven't finished, they don't feel that their children have gotten the concept and they have to move to the next one because the school is going to hold them accountable. Or you find certain children that are not prepared, they are not ready, and there's really not much the school has, provision by the school for it. But those effective teachers, they were categorized effective for so many reasons. Part of it was actually finding a solution around that problem. So you have said it beautifully, involving the school, letting them understand, especially if it's a systemic thing. If the school says you must always change, they go to the next topic after, no matter who understands or not. If it's a systemic thing, you need to let the school know. But then also that individual teacher, what makes a teacher, using your own teacher judgment, using the fact that, okay, I have this child in my class. I have assessed, I know this child is not. So finding every way, working with a home, as you said, if it is come early in the, ideally a school should have a program a remediation program, intervention program that can be used across. But if the school doesn't, or it's not going to really solve the problem of that child, it is doing everything the teacher can do, speaking to the school, talking to the parents. When can they bring this child? Knowing when to withdraw the child from some things. I'm not saying from their break time. Maybe some subjects that are maybe not examinable, or they're not core, and using that time to focus on that, to help that child grow. It could be, during the holidays, so it is just that it takes a lot from teachers. So it's always better when it's an institutional thing. But even at that, you'll still find one or two of them. And at the end of the day, it is progress that we're after. So even when we do the exams, as you said, we're very data driven, and we make a lot of decisions, and improvements based on data. So if this child is not maybe one of the smartest, let me say a less able child, and I'm able to move this child from this level just a bit up to the next level, and we keep working on that, it is better. When the child does exams, he might never be an A student, but the child can be brought from being a D student to being a C or a B, because we're taking our time, we're differentiating learning for that child, and the child is making progress. So every child making progress is the most important thing. So I just wanted to round up with that and to say that. And then Techno says, but peer assessment, would it not demoralize some pupils, especially like shy ones that do not like to share their scores with peers? I think that is exactly going back to what I was trying to explain about having a training on what peer assessment is and what self-assessment is. You do not just, exchanging books is not peer assessment. That is just, honestly, to be honest, you're just trying to get people to take some marking off you. If it is peer assessment, it is about what it is. And what peer assessment is really about the individual. I'm looking at somebody else's work for me to understand where the person got it right, where the person got it wrong, where I got it right, where I got it wrong. So when you do a training before you start this process of peer assessment, and it is also about the feedback, how to feed back to the person that I, check the work. Sometimes we would even say, not peer evaluation. We are not even using the quantitative thing of putting the marks and putting 3/5. It is about the feedback. You can make it qualitative. So peer assessment would achieve its purpose if you do a training about what it is for and how it should be used and how feedback should be given and how you're actually helping yourself by assessing that person is not, or somebody is looking at, oh, I scored low. It's not about that. It's about you understanding where you got it wrong. Doing child speak. They can speak to each other to explain, where the gaps are. So that trainer will take care of, a child feeling bad because they saw my mark and things like that. It's when they don't have that understanding that would matter. And I hope that answers Techno's question. Mrs. Tucker, is that okay?
Yes, Dr. Wani, perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Please don't leave this meeting, Dr. Wani.
I'm good. Anyway, we have 5 minutes to go. We have just 5 minutes to go.
Yeah. Okay. So there's one last question. Thank you, Dr. Rani. Thank you, Dr. Fakoya. Really appreciate you. There's one last question. What are the arguments for and against differentiating a class and differentiating a year group? By Daniel Shitu. If you'd like to unmute yourself and throw some more light on this question.
Yes.
That would be helpful.
Okay, so we have 5 minutes to go because I need to go somewhere. Okay. Is the person not unmuting? Okay, someone said, what is the relationship between differentiation and individual differences? What does that mean? Between differentiate, isn't differentiating learning and individual differences? Again, can Joseph please explain what this question means? Joseph Udo. Because when you are differentiating learning, you are understanding the individual differences, and then you are using that to differentiate learning. And even now, they said that they don't even call it, who was with me? Mrs. Nakwe, she's still here. That we don't even use the word adapt, yes. Abroad now, in the UK now, they're even proposing that differentiation, that word is even actually being replaced by the word adapt. As in, we just learned that this summer, adapting learning, because they feel that, when you are adapting, when you're different to them in the UK, anything that you are differentiating is almost like labeling. So they're saying, now I'm adapting, my teaching, to each child's individual differences. So, but basically that question, what is the relationship between differentiation and individual differences, is differentiation of learning is based on individual differences. So this child is like this. This is how this child learns. This is this child's interests. This is this child's, learning ability. Then you differentiate your plan. You plan, for that child what you are going to teach. You can put them. You differentiate in your lesson plan. You differentiate what you are going to be giving the different children according to their ability. But it is based on the individual differences. So I hope that answers Joseph's question. Ms. Baker, I don't know if you want to say anything about that.
Yes, he said good. He said good. You have answered my question.
All right. Okay.
Yes, I think that what you said about differentiation being based on individual differences, I think that's what clarified it for him.
Yes.
That's it, really. Yeah. Okay. So
thank you
so much, Ms. Fakoya.
Thank you, Dr. Wani. Thank you for your leadership.
Thank you.
Thank you so much once again, Dr. Wani. Thank you, Dr. Fakoya. So today we got a 2-for-1 training. I hope you guys noticed that. 2 for 1, 2 for the price of 1 training today. Thank you so much, Ma. We really appreciate you. Very quickly, we just have 2 more items and then we'll let you go. I'm going to call on Mr. Chibuzo to quickly, just clean house with feedback very quickly. Chibuzo.
Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the Transformational Teachers Network, I want to thank everyone for attending the assessment for learning as a tool for deep learning. We hope you found the session helpful and educational. We trust that the speaker offered insightful commentary and your attendance has made this event a success. Today's session continues on the 2nd of September at Igbobi College. And on that day, we're going to break out into year groups. And the theme for the session that day is the principles of an effective lesson. And for non-members is 2,500 Naira. There's a link for the feedback form in the chat section. Please, your feedback is very important. As we strive for continuous improvement, your feedback is invaluable to us. We kindly request a moment of your time to complete a brief feedback form using the link provided. Thank you for your contribution.
Thank you, Chibuzo. And can I just seize this opportunity to thank the management and the leadership of Igbobi school. Can we just appreciate them for being a partner to TTN? Can we unmute and just clap for them? Thank you so. We appreciate you.
Hi, Kuba.
Yes, so.
Up, I see.
Up, I see.
Thank you.
What are we saying?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. We appreciate you, Iwobi College. We appreciate you so much. One last thing before we round up, I'd like to share with you the upcoming trainings. Like we've said now, the training taking place at Iwobi College on the 2nd of September. For subscribed members, it is free. For non-subscribed members, it costs 2,500 naira only, and you can we will send it's the same account that you made payment to attend this session that you need to make payment to, but we will also be sharing the details in the near future. The topics are the topic for consideration on that day is the principles of an effective lesson. We want to discuss and what an effective lesson should look like. This is not only on lesson planning, but what should an effective look like? What should the assessment in an effective lesson look like? What should the engagement, how do we engage students in an effective learning, in an effective lesson? What does that look like? And we will this time, because TTN is all about teachers, teachers helping teachers, teachers supporting teachers. We believe very much in us. We are going to be throwing out requests for facilitators for each level. We will share that with some of the facilitators already. Sorry, there's somebody that is unmuted. Can you please mute? But just in case any one of us here is would like to facilitate at any of the levels as well, please get in touch with us after the session. Also, I'd like to thank you also for attending our last webinar, our last All Occasions webinar. Those who won, I believe some of the winners are in here today. All of them have received their gifts. One of them has redeemed her gift at Radisson Blu yesterday. She shared some amazing pictures with us, which we will share in our group as well. So we keep our word. That's what we're trying to say to you, that we promise that you will get some gifts, and they have received their gifts as well. I'm sharing with you our calendar the rest of the year. So our next training, like I said, is on the 2nd of September. We also have some sessions for the Platinum members on the 16th of September and the 7th of October. Following that, our next online training will be on the 4th of November. And we have Ms. Carol Barlow, who will be taking us. She's a seasoned facilitator. We're very happy and very excited to have her with us. She'll be taking us on incorporating the 21st century themes into teaching and learning. Dr. Wani spoke about, she gave us a hint about that earlier on while she was speaking about what the whole assessment for learning looks like when she showed us that picture. One of the things that we consider as 21st century themes. So Ms. Caraballo will be taking us on that topic as well. And then we will be rounding up the year with a hangout at Landmark Beach. We'll be rounding up the year with the hangout at Landmark Beach. We are really looking forward to that as well. Further details concerning that will be shared shortly as well as the time draws closer. I'd also like to remind you all as members, those of you who are members of TTN, that you have the opportunity to submit articles for the newsletter. So please take this opportunity. You publish it to a wide, you never can tell where this will be useful in the future. Take this opportunity that we're giving you, and we're working on our August newsletter now. If you'd like to submit an article for the newsletter, please get in touch with us, submit your articles. We will pick the ones that we think, should go into the newsletter that we share across all platforms as well. And finally, for those of us who are not members but are here today, I'd just like to share with you some of the benefits that you have by joining TTN annually. We have various membership subscription levels ranging from the bronze membership package at 24,000 naira per annum. That's just 2,000 a year. And that gives you access to 4 training sessions, access to resources, and access to a free session on etiquette, a free session on first aid training as well. For the gold and platinum membership packages, they are 36,000 naira and 60,000 naira respectively, and they are filled with so many offers. You have access to 8 training sessions, you have access to 2 TRC and approved workshops, you have access to, for the platinum members, to mentorship, and for you also have access to discounts on our national conference. You have access to action learning sessions for the platinum members as well. Some of our platinum members are on here and they can testify that they have started their 3-month mentorship program as well. At this point, I would like to say thank you very much once again for joining us. Anybody who has some questions, I can see somebody's hands up. Techno, can you, if you have any questions, do let me know, please. Let me know if you have any questions. Techno, I see your hands up. Is there any clarification you'd like me to provide? Okay, so some people are asking for the audio, some people are asking for the PowerPoints. For members, we will share something with you on in the membership group. For those who are non-members, I'm not sure that we can share that with the PowerPoint slides with you. However, we will let you know. We'll clarify and let you know shortly. Thank you very much for joining. Thank you, Dr. Wani. Thank you, Dr. Fakoya. We are so grateful for today. You will all agree with me that this was an insightful session and that you were all able to take something back that you can implement in your classes. I'd ask that please fill the feedback form. This helps us get better. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Please fill the feedback form. The link is in the chat group. It's very important, especially for those from Igbobi College, to fill the feedback form. It's very, very important. Thank you so much once again. And God bless you all. Have a great Saturday. I hope you are all, implementing what we learned during the occasions webinar. I hope you're resting as well as having some professional development over the holidays. Have a great weekend. Thank you.